Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Film Like a Girl. I'm your host, Catherine Mora, and this month I'm joined by the lovely Ray Lowe.
Hi, Catherine. Thank you for having me. I am so stoked to be on here. I'm so stoked about the context of the podcast. I always say we do not have enough fun, yappy girl time in any of the industries I'm involved, from fashion to
Mhm.
film. But I'm so excited about this. I can't wait to see who
Yay!
else is going to be on here.
Yes. Oh my God. No, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. It's so to give a little more context to those who might be listening or watching for the first time, Film Like a Girl is a monthly podcast where we both celebrate and elevate women who work in the industry in various roles, from directors to writers to people who work in marketing to those who host entertainment podcasts like Ray does, and really just a wide, because it's such a wide spectrum, the industry. There's roles that you wouldn't even necessarily think of right
Yeah.
away. Like when you think Hollywood, you think the film industry, you think directors, writers, actresses, like that. But there's so much that goes into making a single project. So this podcast exists to educate other women about what the options are and to celebrate the women who are working and making it happen
I
and
love
paving
that.
the way for others.
I wish I had had this too. We'll
Mhm.
probably talk into it today, but man, working in film or any entertainment production level industry job is exhausting and it takes forever to learn how to get there. And mine was kind of accidental. So I'm sure I'll talk about
So
that later.
that seems like a great way to,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your journey, about how you got to where you are now.
Okay, well, for a little background, in case anyone listening doesn't know, I'm not very popular. I'm Ray, and I mostly host what are basically special events for Marvel and also just Disney in general. So whenever we have red carpets, I'll usually be one of the hosts for the live red carpet premiere for Marvel, which we always do in Hollywood. Although Daredevil and Wolverine was in New York, so there's occasions for it being elsewhere.
Mhm.
And then I am also one of the hosts for the official Marvel podcast, our, I guess, new-ish podcast that we launched almost a year ago now. I believe it was July or August of last year. So yeah, we've been doing it for some time. Yeah, that's basically what I do. But it's really weird to have ended up where I am. People ask me all the time, they're like, how do you start hosting red carpet events like this? Or how did you even get into Marvel? And I'm sure most people who are into this industry similar, but my journey is not linear at all. I never anticipated getting into this. I actually, in my former life, was a fashion editor. I worked primarily for Refinery 29, a digital online women's media website. There's so many words that go with that now. For a good 5 years of my life. I was in print magazine before that in the city. And while kind of trying to figure out how to have my own voice in the fashion editorial world, especially it was changing so rapidly because 2015, 2016, there was this huge divide in print media and digital media. Like we had blogs before like the 2016, 2017 boom. And so joining a website that was just kicking off at that time, that was during the golden era of like BuzzFeed and everything, you had to find your own online persona as a fashion editor. You could no longer just like style pages in a magazine that went out every month. Now you had to have consistent columns. You had to fight for getting your stories pushed. And so I was very green. I was in my young 20s and I can't even remember how exactly it happened, but I started intersecting my interests. I loved Disney. I mean, not loved, I love Disney. I grew up a little bit outside of LA and Disneyland was my backyard like everyone else. My parents pulled me out of school to go many times a year. Love Disney. And during the time that I was joining as a fashion editor, there was all of this intercept of how Disney was coming into the fashion world. So Alessandro at Gucci was doing collaborations on the runway. I wish I could remember like what the first thing I covered was. It was probably Coach. I believe that's right. Stuart Veers. Yeah. Who is like head of design and I'm sure creative director at Coach, maybe still. He was really huge into Disney. So he was putting things down his own runways. There was like that Bambi collection back then. Coach Outlet was doing all their handbag collections. And this is all a long winded way of saying I got lucky in that I loved Disney at a time that it was becoming very cool in the fashion zeitgeist.
Mhm.
One of the first things I covered was I flew to Disneyland and there was an opening ceremony fashion show in Toontown. And I was like wedged between my friend Marissa, who used to work at Nylon, now I think is at Vans. and Sabrina Carpenter, very baby Sabrina Carpenter, and
Yes.
Chance the Rapper. And it was also like green at the time. It was all just all these cool kids who love Disney, who love to wear streetwear. Vet Mons was doing a collaboration too. So I started covering this online. And that was also when video was breaking out. So Snapchat was, I guess it wasn't new, but they were still trying to find ways to like make Snapchat a little more corporate. You would have all these brands that you would follow daily stories from. I started to help our video department shoot those, also some YouTube videos. I was doing Facebook Live coverage for whenever these collaborations would come out, whether it was Vans and Disney or even Coach and Disney, which was a lot, still, I think, as a collaboration. And so I kind of got my name into the Disney universe that way. I started going out to a bunch of PR events to cover from a fashion angle. It wasn't ever something I intended to stick with fashion for a long time, but I was so glad that I could cover this and make this a thing. I always thought it was going to be temporary because I was like, maybe Disney will be on its way out of being what's cool again. You know, actually, we were kind of one of the first ones to grab the idea of the Disney adult. And we did like a whole Refinery 29 video on that at that time too, which was cool. We featured my friend styled by Magic, Chelsea Watson, who was in it. But it was a really, really fun time. And it was a fun time. Oh, I'm thinking of all these things I'm forgetting, but I also interviewed when they tried to bring back Club Mickey Mouse. It was
Yes.
like a dance music crew they were trying to bring back. It was very short lived, but I had met like a bunch of the Disney producers from doing things like that. And so I went freelance for my own self in 2018, 2019. And I was reached out to by a Marvel producer who was in casting, who had heard my name from the grapevine from the Disney producers, because of course by then Disney had purchased Marvel. They were all kind of like one house, and they had a concept for a show that was mostly going to be social leaning, and it tied into the idea of styled by Marvel. You know, we had all these Disney collaborations. How can we also push maybe some of these cool Marvel collaborations that are coming around? Like we've had Kith and X-Men since then. There's been so much that has happened because that's also a cool kid space. Is
Yeah.
like the hype beasts and the sneakerheads and everything. They're all intercepted. They all intertwine into that comic book character superhero world. Yeah, and so I auditioned for this show, and at the time, you know, we were going forward with it, and then COVID hit. So there was a lot, unfortunately, there's a lot of lost media I feel like everyone was working at, especially at Disney during that
Yeah.
time, that I'm sure will never see the light of day. But my name was still in the roster for Marvel. So when COVID was sort of, I hate to say on its way out, but when COVID restrictions were being loosened, we were going back to red carpets. The first one that really came back was Shang-Chi. And the Marvel people at the time reached out being like, hey, we know of your work that you've done with Marvel and Disney in the past. We're looking to kind of like bring in new hosts for this sort of new phase, new era. We'd love it if you considered it. And I was like, yes, absolutely. I
Yeah, it's
have
like,
to
sign me up immediately.
Oh, exactly. And
Yeah.
listen, to all my friends out there who I played it cool with, such a lie. I was so nervous for this. Granted, there's something, yeah, okay. I was doing live material before in the scheme of social media live. You have Instagram live, Facebook live, Snapchat live. I was covering all those things, but it's different when you know that you are being watched by possibly, usually millions of people in a live capacity. And this is your first red carpet ever. And you are someone who I have no cap on my energy. I like to think that helps to get me hired a lot, but I'm sure it also doesn't get me hired a lot. And so being able to temper what my reactions were going to be for such a fun event, that was so nerve-wracking to me. I think I'm too scared now to go back and watch some of those videos. Obviously, everything I do still lives on the internet like everyone else. But yeah, those videos, I already remember a few times that I bombed, and I'm like, I'll take the constructive criticism I've created in my head and I won't have to watch that again, and I know I'll do better. But now I've been doing that for going on 5 years, and I've now been doing also Comic Cons whenever Marvel has not a little, we have usually a big booth installation at New York Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con. In the past few years, I've flown out and gotten to host that, which has been
Yes.
really, really cool. I think those are my favorite events.
Yes. That's actually where I don't know if you remember, that's where we met the
Oh my
first
gosh,
time. Yeah.
I don't know why I always think it's a red carpet, but you're right. It
Yeah.
was Comic Con. Who were
Mhm.
you dressed as?
I was dressed as, what you my God, I'm totally blank, Mighty Thor.
Oh, you're right. You
Yes. I was just as
Okay,
Mighty
wait. I
Thor.
can't even remember. Did I come up to you in the convention center and ask you to like come to the Comic Con later, or did you, or the out like the contest, or did you already know?
There was like I no, I honestly I think what had happened was I was with a group of like other cosplayer
Yeah,
creators
group.
and you guys were like interviewing us one by one.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how it ended up happening. I had the microphone and then I was interviewing a friend of mine, David, who was dressed as Captain America. And you just like let me yap and blab for like the longest time. And I was like,
I
they're
think
not
I
taking
remember this. I was like, "You're a pro. You're better at this. Go ahead, just talk."
I was literally there like, well, they haven't taken the microphone from me yet, so I'm just gonna keep going.
Okay, so I'll extrapolate a little bit on why Comic Cons are my favorite events because right, red carpets, really freaking cool. I get to talk one on one with all these celebrities. I get to see all the people that come in, but the whole thing is it's so chaotic. You have fans screaming everywhere. We usually have these areas for really devoted fans and cosplayers to be hanging around, so all the celebrities can see them when they come in, sometimes sign their helmets, which is really cool. And then we have all the people in the street who are watching. You have a line of media. And so it's so much fun, but you don't get to be in the moment necessarily. You prep and you prep and you prep for this crazy 2-hour event to get what you need from it. And it's a really cool thing to walk away from, but half the time I feel like I just blacked out to like make work happen. Comic-Con, you get 4 days there. I mean, we're usually there the entire run. You get to meet all of these incredible fans, and then you get to become friends with other fans. Because at the end of the day, every single one of the Marvel hosts, and there's so many of us that I've become best friends with. I mean, there's Angelique Roche, who's become my mentor in so many ways. There's Langston Belton, there's Josh Soleil, all these people you see at Comic Cons and on red carpets for Marvel. We don't really get to interact with the fans one on one, and we just are fans. Very few of us work for Marvel full time. It's usually a contract gig because you're just by hire for event. And when you're a freelancer, committing yourself to a company is also really difficult because there's so many other people you can work with in the meantime. But yeah, you rarely get to interact with all the other people who are as like nerdy as you are. But at Comic Cons, you do. And most of the time, I'm doing all these fun stage events. And I also get to run around the Comic Con trying to recruit people to come over. We get to do these, what we call man on the street little segments where we film videos just talking to fans out on the floor. And then it's cool because then I have a bunch of people like you who I get to see at like every event after that, or just even get to like follow their work after. Sometimes you never see someone again, but
Yeah.
they're an artist or they're also their own social media host. I mean, I meet so many people who are not actually, if there's any piece of advice right here, it's going to be this. So many people in media are not tied to any brand and specifically. They're not dedicated to e-news. They're not dedicated to Vogue Online. They're not dedicated to Marvel. They are their own social media influencers, creating their own content around media they find really exciting. And I have to say, as someone now I'm 33 and I'm really happy in this space I've created for myself with Marvel while still doing all the other things that I love. But if I had known sooner, I think I would have picked up a little tiny mic and started reviewing more media on my own social media channel when this was all coming to be. One of the difficult parts about working for one company directly are not even just NDAs, obviously working for Marvel, sure, but competitors and it's a really dicey area when you're a freelancer because technically, I mean, you can if you can figure out ways to do it, but it's also a little bit frowned upon and you become an expert in one area. They see you as being an expert in our brand, so we want to hire you for that. And so when you start talking about other things, you tend to lose that you lose that image for yourself within the producer and the casting people's eyes. But because that's what I came with. Now, if they're hiring you as someone who speaks about all media, you never really have to abide by those rules. But also, it's really, really great practice. And these casting directors, these producers are always looking for people in every avenue that they have. It is not submission. It is rarely a submitted self tape like it is in acting. They are on their feet, they are on the beat, seeing what's happening on TikTok, what's happening on Instagram. Even sometimes we'll have other guest red carpet hosts that'll come in for different red carpet events, and there'll be people who have a really big social media following, or they've been on other things like ESPN in the past, or covered Disney upfronts for their own interest. So do as much as you can on your own. That is there's a random piece of advice I'm thinking of. But going back to Comic Con, it's being able to follow these people and learn from them myself. I become a better host by seeing how other people are hosting. I am always watching how other people are talking, are conducting interviews, are talking to other celebrities. I have to shout out, there's a couple I really love. They're not a couple, but a couple people I really love who used to be at comic book Brandon Davis and Jenna. Oh my goodness, I'm
Mhm.
completely blanking on her last name. But Jenna, she used to work with him as well. Well, they had this Marvel oriented podcast called Hero.
Phase 0, Hero or
Right?
Zero, yeah,
Yeah, Phase Zero
yeah,
or Hero. Maybe it was Phase. Oh no, I think it was Phase Zero.
yes.
And now they've all since left comicbook.com and are now, yeah, it's Phase Hero. And they're all doing this on their own time. It's absolutely incredible, even without having the access they had before at their former media job. They are still creating incredible stories. So yeah, it's meeting people and finding people like that. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and like you're saying, because I feel like for from the content creator lens, like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's not just like you're saying, like getting the mic yourself, making the content, like building your own brand. It's also a lot of research
Yeah.
because you make your friends and like, you're watching this to support them, but at the same time, you're like taking notes like, oh, like that was a really good question. That was a really great way that they like broke the
Yeah.
ice with that person. Or like if you're looking from a cosplayer lens, like, oh my God, like that's such an awesome transition. I want to try that out
Yeah.
too. Yeah, it's a lot of, I feel like, and this can also work for the industry at large, which it does because like if you're like a filmmaker and you watch a movie, like you're taking notes. You're
Mhm.
enjoying it, but at the same
All the
time you're
time.
taking notes and you're like learning from it too.
Yeah. I hope you are, because I don't know what kind of director or actor you are if you're not. Ryan Coogler's Sinners did not come to be without referencing decades of film, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah. Such a
it's
good movie. Such a good
gosh,
movie.
had to watch it twice in the same day. It was ridiculous.
God.
I was just like, I haven't watched a good movie this long. That being said, I did watch another good movie this long, and it is Thunderbolts. And
Yes.
I don't care if I'm a shill, it is so
So good. It's really good.
and we are all babies who are depressed in some way right now. And if you want to feel seen, it's the greatest
That is
way of
the
feeling
movie.
seen. Yes.
Yes. So I get, and that kind of to go back to like Marvel, so when if you're allowed to answer this, because again, I know like NDA. So like from the time a movie is announced, let's say, to when it's like coming out and there's like press and stuff being done for it, like at what point do you know like, okay, I'm gonna be working on maybe this thing, I might be working on that carpet?
So here's a fun truth fact.
Yeah.
Never.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I think that is the difficult part about being a freelancer as well, right? You are, and I'm sure this is all, of course, speaking for myself. Plenty of other people have entirely different experiences with this, but yeah,
Yeah.
never. So yeah, as a freelancer, and again, I'm speaking from personal experience. I'm sure other people have very different contracts, and that's the difficult thing is that's why it's always so important to talk to your fellow freelancers, fellow media people, and be as transparent as possible. It helps everyone to be transparent within this. And my friends are so great about this. We're always letting each other know how things are changing at companies, where prices are going up, where prices are going down, how to ask for your worth, which can all be difficult right now, especially when you just want work. And I know that more than everyone, especially, no, as much as everyone, considering the last couple years of strikes that we're going through and still the dead film world. I mean, I live in New Orleans. We had a really, really great film and TV industry, and it is unfortunately like 99% completely obliterated here. So
Oh,
all of my work I do remotely. But yeah, when the film is released, when they do all these things, we never know necessarily. And I don't necessarily know that Marvel is also sure what they're going to always do for promo that far in advance. Things consistently change as far as like weather. Especially in LA, they've had rain events before. They've had to put shelters on for red carpet premieres. Obviously, strikes have affected premieres that we've had in the past, protests in some way, but also how quickly the red carpet events have been to the release date for the movie has also changed since I started doing red carpets. I believe it was like close to 2 weeks in advance before, and now it's pretty much a few days in advance.
mhm.
but I get reached out to probably about like a month, 2 months in
Okay.
advance from when the red carpet's happening. So it's pretty short lead time, but they're really great about prep work. I mean, they'll obviously you get an entire rundown of all of the cast and crew that are going to be there. Marvel's great about giving you a bunch of rundown of the context and storyline behind the movie. I get a bunch of like fun little things I get to read a few days before press gets to read it. So, ooh, that's the most that I get. As, like, we also are treated like we're not supposed to know everything as well. Sometimes we watch like 15 to 30 minutes of the content beforehand. Sometimes we don't. So it's very dependent on, I guess, what team you're also working with at Marvel and Disney. But once I get that a month, 2 months in, that is when I go hardcore on my research. I start and it's so hard to rewatch all the films and TV shows I need to rewatch. Ooh, I'm sitting there in my bed eating like the loaded taco Doritos, watching Hawkeye like back to back. I am on like a huge Rogers the Musical kick again. Yes, because I just watched Hawkeye in preparation for Thunderbolt like twice in a row. And then I do some fun background research on the actors, especially if they're new joining the MCU. It's really the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in case you didn't know. Designate that because you get a lot of these returning actors, of course, like Florence Pugh is coming in. You're like, ooh, what's it like to be back, Florence? And then you get someone like Lewis Pullman, who has not been cast in a Marvel film before. He's very new to it. So this is actually like a fun little specific example to give, just like how the process works. We get maybe 2 to 4 minutes with the cast and crew, and you really have to figure out how you're going to ask something that feels new to the fact that they've been doing a press run for 4 days in a row that they haven't already been asked, that kind of like gets them off guard so they feel comfortable talking with you because they're nervous too. It's a massive red carpet event. They're just people. They might be actors, but they're also putting on a face. And so you want something that feels really impactful in those couple of minutes. Obviously, you always want to be like, yeah, what's it like to be here? But with the Marvel team and our own questions that we workshop, we're able to ask something like, Lewis Pullman, you've been in so many incredibly serious films. You've had all of these really grounded characters that you've played. What is it like to kind of switch it up and be in a blockbuster film? So it's research of really not just getting up there and hoping for the best and hoping that you remember enough information to ask them something fun they want to answer. It's figuring out how to connect with each of the cast and crew on a different level, because then obviously, sure, we can all get really excited to talk to Geraldine Viswanathan, right? She's stunning in person. But then you get someone like an executive producer like Louis Despacito, and you have to approach the interview entirely differently. You're not talking to someone with star status who has a direct line to the fans. You're talking to someone who might be a little more geared to people who are obsessed with the process, and you want to find those things out too. You're like, okay, what's it like to produce your 30-second Marvel film? And what does the process look like for you? And you're not on set. So tell me, what was it like when you first decided to cast someone? So it's a bunch of just like different, it's a liberal arts degree. Like you want to bring everything into those exact moments. So yeah, that's what I spend like that entire month doing, just consuming content, consuming these people's lives, watching past red carpet events, seeing how these people have answered questions to other hosts as well, knowing like what good angles are for making them comfortable with what they're asking, making sure it's not something that they answer the same 50 ways every time. Then we have a bunch of calls and meetings with Marvel going down to it. And then I get to the event like a day before and I get a full run through. And then they say, good night. We'll hope for the best tomorrow. And that's what it is. But very, very short lead time in terms of, how things typically work in the production world. Like we as hosts tend to come in quite last.
You've done, because I was not stalking, reviewing a little
Yeah.
bit on your LinkedIn. So I've seen you've
Research.
done like, yeah, research. I've been doing a little research on LinkedIn and I've seen, you've done a good number of Marvel red carpets. Which one would you say is like your favorite that you've done?
Ooh, okay. It feels like such a cop out always to say it's the most recent one, but it's the one I'm like the most juiced and jazzed about. It was a month ago, but I've done about like 6 carpets now. You're right. I do have to say it was Eternals, and I am
Okay,
an
yeah,
Eternals stan. I will
yeah,
live by the fact that I think it is a brilliant movie, and everyone is underrating its content.
it is.
Angelina Jolie was like, "I'm showing up," but that was such a ridiculously star-studded cast in the most fun way. I mean, you had everyone you loved from other franchises already, okay? We have like the Tomb Raider, we have Angelina Jolie. Then you have Richard Madden, who was in Game of Thrones, and that was also fun because I didn't think I was supposed to interview him. We used to have the separate stage setup where it was a stage 1 and a stage 2. There was like a main stage by the fans that a lot of the bigger casts would stop at. And then we had a second stage further down the press line where I was at a lot, where I'd interview more of the creators behind the film, you know, your music composers, your stunt directors, but obviously like a lot of the cast as well. But I think he just like misunderstood where to go on the carpet and he just rolled up right behind us and slipped in to interview with us. And he was so delightful and he smelled so great and made great eye contact. I love you, Richard Madden. You're such a great human. Who else did we had Selma Hayek.
Yes.
Like this film goodness gracious, Barry,
Yes.
before like he had exploded into what he is now. I just, oh my goodness, an incredible cast. And they were all having the most fun themselves. Gemma Chan
Yes.
from Crazy Rich Asians.
Yes.
So they were all like crashing their own interviews. We had this like special thing with Lexus where they outfitted all the cars with their own like wraps based on the movie. And okay, so this is really fun. My mother is truly one of the greatest and most supportive but sprightliest humans in existence. She's this little 5 foot Filipino woman and she's hilarious, but she lives right outside of LA. She comes to every single one of my red carpet events. And don't steal her space, guys, because I'm about to let out a great secret. Usually, when we have these red carpet events, they're pretty exposed to the
Mhm.
Hollywood street.
Mhm.
We obviously like have grass walls and everywhere for privacy, but the place where you can see the press line and you can watch the celebrities go by is open on the street with gating, and that's right in front of the Jimmy Kimmel Theater.
Okay.
And so she always arrives a few hours before, posts up, direct eye contact with my mom the whole time. And I make most of the celebrities. I'm like, Florence Pugh, my mom's here. Wave hi to my mom. And Florence Pugh will be like, hey, mom.
Yes, I think
And
I saw that on Instagram.
yes, okay,
Yes,
yes.
I
And
saw it.
she's
It was
got a lot of
lovely.
I love it because she catches everything I don't get to see. Like, I get to have these one-on-one interactions. Usually I'm having like a little 30-second to like a minute conversation with the cast and crew before we pump up the cameras. So I kind
Mhm.
of get them comfortable. I help tell them like what they need to do, what cameras to look at. And I'll try and do, and I mean, this is I don't know if I would advise it. I just don't have any boundaries. I find the best way to not disarm, but make someone comfortable is to start just like debasing yourself and making like really funny jokes and talking about how great they look. And it just that way, once the cameras, roll and on air, sure, they're professional. They're used to turning it on when it's on camera. But we like these conversations to feel like they're genuinely with the fans. That's kind of the best way to do it. Just like start to make some silly jokes. And it's really good to connect them with my mom over there. Like she just happens to do that. So thank you, mom, for being so supportive. It's really fun for her. But yeah, at the Eternals one, when I would do that, she almost got all of the cast to go over there up to her.
My
It's really
goodness.
great. So yeah, I think that one was really it. They're all so much fun. The energy is so much fun. Now years later, oh my gosh, and I forgot that one of my best friends, at the time, the guy she was dating was one of the writers on the films.
Okay.
I used to work with her at Refinery 29. She got to be on the carpet and we got to like hug each other. And it was such like a full circle moment of like, we made it
Yeah.
here.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, all the red carpets are so much fun. That is not even a hyperbole to say the energy is always great. I mean, Marvel casts some really incredible people. You can
They
even
do.
like even a grumpy bear like Sebastian Stan is so happy to be there. He's so jazzed. And they get to see everyone who's been excited for this screaming. They get to talk about a project that they've probably been holding in secrets for months.
Mhm.
So the energy is always electric. They're always my favorite. I like have to come down for the week after red carpet and come back to reality. Not even because of what I do, but I am such like a film stan girly. I love being like in set and in production. I do some not not a prolific actor, but I do acting on the side is also something that I do and styling and film sets. And just being a part of that environment like start to finish is really cool. So
I did not know that about that you would do, like that
yeah.
you were, like, also you act on the side and you said you do, like, costume design or styling?
Styling, yeah, exactly. I mean,
Okay.
costume design as well when it comes to film sets.
Yeah.
That coming from the fashion editor world, that's how I make a lot of my freelance gigs still work now is I still style. I do a lot of personal styling. I do a lot of photo shoot styling for brands, for media still sometimes. Yeah. As a freelancer, and this is just turning into being a freelancer, you learn to just never say no to anything and never drop any experience that you've had in the past because you never know when a 2-year strike is going to happen and you're going to need those skills again.
Excellent point. Excellent, excellent point. So you really do dabble in like a lot of different areas. Like it's all connected in
Yeah.
the film industry in some way, but it's like you're a
And
little bit of everything.
I think that is what's kept me in. I never want to say that there's ageism or that let's just be honest. There are rounds of what people want to consume on the internet. Things are so flash in the pan. And it's true that there is consistency. Like, and if we go back and look at old Marvel Disney content, we had a lot of really great staple hosts for a long time. But every so often there has to be these brand refreshes, whether that is demand coming from the audience, whether it's coming from the company, whoever's making those decisions, producers, things just consistently change. And so this goes back to the fact that like I never expect to be called for a Marvel project. You just never know what they're going to be looking for next. And as much as you can change yourself and show that you have a variety of you have a variety of interests and you have staying power, you don't get to make those decisions. And you try not to take it personally because it's rarely about your performance. It's just like acting. They are hiring based on what fits their needs at that moment for that specific thing. So say there is a really incredible, I can't even think of it. I don't know. There's going to be a really, really great POC film that's coming out for the Marvel universe. And it's not necessarily, I'm half Filipino. It's not necessarily Asian geared. They really want representation for that. If I do not get called to do that, and this is hyper specific, this could also happen for anything not related to diversity or race or anything. That is what it is. And maybe they'll call me back for the next one or in the next two or never again. I'm always just grateful for the fact that I got to work with them in general. And so it's so important to make sure that you are consistently meeting as many people in different areas of the industry as possible. You never also know when someone's going to jump ship or be recruited to a different team. And I can say as much as I've auditioned, as much as I try to put myself out there, make myself available, I think almost every time I've been invited to something or I've been hired for something has been because of a close connection in some way. And that is not a surprise. The entire industry is all about connections and it sucks. And I don't think it will ever not be that way because it is such human nature.
Yeah.
But that's why it's so important to do as much as you can. Also, to be as nice as you can. I say this all the time. It's film. And so obviously, people get a really inflated sense of where they belong. But the only reason I'm still doing this at 33 is because I think of kindness and that it's the only reason I'll hire other people too. And I think of a project, I think of people I really enjoyed working with in the past. It doesn't necessarily matter how much merit someone has. You get called back because you are reliable and good to work around.
Yeah. Yeah. And to like backtrack a little bit on what you were saying about like, with the connections and everything,
Mhm.
even when you're still trying to break in, like when you still don't have those connections, like
Yes.
kindness is
Yeah.
what helps, being reliable is what helps like develop like
This is
yeah.
so dumb, but even just you go girl to like someone who has 5,000 followers as a host. I've built so many great relationships because I'm not necessarily massive on social media. It's a really difficult thing for me as someone who works like a billion different jobs to do, and I handle other people's social media. So I'm not practicing what I preach here, but I'm telling you, you're going to have a better off time getting jobs than me if you do that. I've built so many really, really great connections and friendships with people in the fandom universe and also other people who are trying to break into this based on the consistency of our conversations on social media, on Instagram, and how they've DM'd me after. And they've even like told me explicitly things that they would hope to see in future Marvel content and future media content, which has been really awesome because I can bring those things back to the team. We always have these post-mortem meetings and we care about that. Again, everyone who works for Marvel and Disney as a whole, the biggest fans you will ever see in your life, like hardcore. Everyone who is doing this cares so much. So yeah, we always want to know. But you can be like connections are with really like cool, awesome people, or I have to go buy a 3-day Comic-Con pass and talk to as many people as possible. Social media is the best tool for that. I talk to people in Kansas who are like really cool fandom heads who are also now creating their own content on their social medias as advised, who are going to things like the Dallas Expos and Comic-Con. I mean, also that's the other thing too. Remember, there's so many more events than just the big ones that you are seeing. And they are in many ways more important to attend because there is a lack of like representation and coverage in major
Yes.
media. So,
Yeah. Yeah. You would, I feel like a creator would have more luck getting like a creator pass or like a partnership with a smaller convention than with New York
absolutely.
Comic Con.
Do
Yeah.
not turn those down. Like, do
Yeah.
not turn your nose at it. Here's the thing, too. Something like San Diego Comic Con, awesome, but so oversaturated in so many ways. And everyone is running around creating content at that. And so, if you want a unique angle, you want your stuff to be seen more, or you just really want to create your own brand image that feels true to yourself, yeah, start small. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's also a similar thing with like filmmaking in general. They're like work with what
Yeah.
you have.
Do shorts, man. In New Orleans, we encourage everyone to like audition for the student films coming out of Tulane, Loyola. We actually have a really great film industry at UNO, University of New Orleans, which is awesome. Audition for shorts like that consistently because even for hosting, I've used my acting reel in the past when I thought I didn't have hosting that was applicable, maybe for hosting a game show or something. If I didn't feel like my interviews were what they needed to see, I've sent in my acting reels before.
And
Everything.
everything helps.
Yeah, it
Everything helps.
does.
Like, you
Do
were saying this
stuff,
before, like
man. Get off your
yes.
butt and do stuff. And I'm telling myself that too, because sometimes I get really lax. But the media is the industry is so fast. It is consistently cycling. You need to, it's true that you just need to keep up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like this is also something in general with the industry, like burnout
Yeah.
because of how fast it moves and like the need to constantly like just trying to keep up all the
Yeah.
time. Like is
Well,
that
and
something?
also, let's just be honest really quickly. It's not a very lucrative career.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, content creation, that's probably why I'll tell you that too. You own a lot more of what you get. You're less reliant on these contracts where you're beholden to whatever budgets look like at major companies that you can't necessarily argue back with. Content creation, you have a lot more freestanding ability. But if you're going into this, it will be awesome if you make money, and plenty of people do. But man, don't expect it. And at least don't expect it to be regular and to be consistent. It is not, I mean, if you learn how to make a full time job out of it for yourself, kudos. But for quite a few years, expect it's going to be hard and you are going to be putting your nose in the dirt for a bit to make things back.
Well, I guess that kind of sort of leads into something else I've been wondering because
Yeah.
not only are you know with Marvel you will host the occasional red carpet, but you're also hosting some podcast episodes as well.
Yeah, I am. So
So how does that? Yeah.
yeah, well, it's actually very similar. I'm pretty much on like a long-term contract for this show, and it's really exciting. So we have this podcast called the Official Marvel Podcast, and there's been a big overhaul in the kind of content that's being produced out of the Marvel Entertainment Division, which is kind of everything except Marvel films, like the MCU as a whole. And disclaimer, I'm speaking on this as a contractor. I do not know all of the internal workings of Marvel. I really only know my own personal involvement. But I got really excited about this podcast when they pitched it as a possibility to host last year because they really want to bring a podcast that is for all levels of fans. If you've watched a single Marvel film, if you are a deep cut comic book head, if you've watched 10 Marvel films and you're trying to figure out how to connect with our other Marvel fans, or you're just really new to it, we're really trying to figure out a way to talk to everyone. And also, I just love all of your guys' feedback on it too. We're like a year in the making. And so we're always trying to figure out different formats with and figure out what works to listeners. But it is a duo hosted format. So every week on Wednesdays, we release a podcast that is hosted by two of our hosts, and it features myself, Langston Belton, who I mentioned before, Nick Carrillo, Anthony Carboni, who's now just like also blowing up on social media. He was just hosting the Star Wars celebration in Tokyo, which was really cool. There is Sade Spence, who is such a treat and treasure to this world. Victoria Yang, Preeti Chibber, who's also a writer for Marvel Comics.
Okay.
So yeah, we're trying to do it to where it's always new. Every week there's a different rotation of hosts. We break down things in the MCU. We also try to give some deep dive background on comic book stories. But yeah, I pretty much do that maybe once or twice a month. And it's great. I can do it out of my home. Um, I will say it is awesome to have that as sort of consistent work It is a stress reliever, and I get to before I was always waiting in between red carpets and Comic-Con events for what was going to how I was going to talk about Marvel, what was going to occur. Now I get to talk about it on a regular basis. But I mean that's pretty much all that it is. On an indefinite contract with them to see how this podcast goes. I hope it stays for a while. I mean, we call it the official Marvel podcast. I feel like
Like, it seems pretty,
it's gonna be
like,
around for a
official,
minute.
like,
And you know,
it should
it's
stick
really
around.
funny. Sometimes I'll tell people, yeah, I do this Marvel podcast. I do a podcast for Marvel. I talk about Marvel on a podcast. And everyone's like, yeah, that's cool, 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 nice. I wonder what it is. You have like 10 listeners and they're like, what's it called? I'm like, the official Marvel podcast. The official yeah, the official Marvel podcast. And they're like,
The podcast.
yeah, it's the one, you know? But doing preparation and research for the podcast, that was also not hard. I mean, I get a Marvel Unlimited subscription.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't ask for less. And just like, I don't know, watching Hawkeye in my bed with my chips. Instead, I can be eating my Haribo gummy bears and reading nonstop on my phone. Like it is crazy how
Yeah.
many comics I'll go through in like a couple hours. It's disgusting. And yet I'm never up to date on the new stuff. I have like such a long to be read list for all the new stuff. And I only read things from the 70s, the 90s, maybe. So it's kind of a shame I'm not more up to speed on more recent comics. I should get on that. But as far as research,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and this is also kinda like an aside too. I feel like for all that people say it's hard to keep up with the MCU, I feel like keeping up with the comics is
yeah,
is much more difficult.
in fact, I think like with the movies, you can watch them. Even the shows are short enough. What we get 6 episodes, you
Yeah.
can watch them 8 times over. These comic books. I don't know. I mean, there are some there are some read throughs I've done a few times over. Especially like She-Hulk, Kevin Wada's She-Hulk, but it's mostly because I think she wears the cutest outfits. You just don't reread storylines the same way like that. Yeah, I'm sorry, it is so much more difficult to keep up with the comics.
Yeah.
But I get it. I mean, what we're like 33 films into the MCU. So, but also if you haven't seen most of them to this day, that is surprising to me. I
Yeah.
don't know how you avoid it anymore.
At this point,
I know.
no.
That's like
Yeah.
people haven't seen Titanic still. I'm like, but how? Like, I guess no one's playing it at the bar, but how?
No, I will say when I was in film school, there was like a heavy bias against Marvel films,
Yeah.
both with the professors and with my fellow classmates. There's like
It's
a heavy bias against
crazy.
it. And I was like, it's so good.
I mean, Thunderbolts prove this. There is still so much depth to the storytelling that I think we omit. Also, not that it's so surface level, but not everything has to be wells deep. I mean, granted, yeah, sure, it may be taking over our theaters in terms of release, but it's also because it's what people want. And people can digest allegories sometimes better in something as fun as superhero movies. And I think it's really important that we still learn lessons that way. I mean, that's what everyone got from comic books. We all learned how to be good and bad from Superman and Captain America. These are still just life lessons, just a little more CGI. And Florence Pugh. Screw you.
Yes.
We
And
have
Florence Pugh.
Florence Pugh.
It's
This
Florence Pugh.
is cinema now. Leave us alone, Martin
Absolute cinema.
Scorsese. But please still cast me one day. But leave us alone.
It is absolute cinema.
See, okay, I will talk about I'm gonna talk about imposter syndrome for a
Yes.
moment, right? Because
Yes.
you just brought up film school, and that is something I still face some difficulties with. Actually, no, let's go full into it. Imposter syndrome as a whole, not just with my studying up on film and what I enjoy about the film world, but also my knowledge and my right to be in the film world. And I find this a lot as a woman in Marvel. A woman in fandom, actually. I mean, I also am like a huge D&D girl. I am big into Lord of the Rings. I mean, granted, Disney is first and foremost. Sure, I'm a Disney adult, but it can be really difficult to establish you don't even need to establish authority, but just right to belong and talk about your enjoyment in certain spaces. And I've never, ever had this from the Disney Marvel side. In fact, they've always been encouraging. And sometimes I think that might still be how I get the jobs that I get is I am not a rare intersect because we have tons of fun and loving, great conversationalist women in the fandom world. But I'm one that like came up on their radar at a time that they were looking for someone. And I still enjoy talking about women in comic. I love finding out, I love discovering more topics we can talk about than just everyone being hot up on their favorite X-Men runs from
Right.
the 70s, the 90s. I don't even, yeah, I mean, there's always a fight between which one's better. But even with film school and everything, I don't have a very aggressive film background as far as education. I have my enjoyment and I have the fact that I did theater. And so I think that's where I tend to work in film. Because obviously, yes, I do acting and costume styling on the costuming on the side, but mostly I'm within this hosting world. And so I get to talk about the celebration of film and the celebration of what people enjoy. And the same with Comic Cons and the same with Marvel. I get to talk about the things that people enjoy putting together. And so I think it's really important to remember that even if you aren't going to be the world's greatest director, or even if you haven't been hosting your own podcast on your own social media until you were 15, you have every right to belong if it's something that you're excited about and it is something that you know and it is something that you are willing to consistently put research into. And I am so down for meeting anyone who doesn't know a topic but finds himself excited by it and then just research the crap out of it, because that makes you knowledgeable and that makes you worthy of being someone who can have a voice and opinion and talking point about anything, honestly. Yeah. And so don't let that discourage you. Don't let, I hate to generalize it, but the word boys club, don't let a boys club deter you from feeling like you're proud to be within that. Because no, I don't know everything. I really don't.
Yeah.
I can only know so many comic runs. And at the end of the day, only so many things interest me to be memorable for me to feel like an authority on in some ways. And it's such a vast world. Again, you cannot keep up with the Marvel universe in any capacity. And I'm always willing to say, hey, I don't think I've played that game as much. Let's let Josh Soleil talk about it. He's so freaking into Marvel games. But I know a hell of a lot about Dazzler, so I'll pick that up for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that applies as a whole. I want everyone to feel like they're comfortable talking about the things
Yeah.
that you enjoy. Don't let anybody put you down or make fun of you because maybe you even said something wrong once. I don't even know how I got on this, but don't let the imposter syndrome eat you, because you'll have it forever.
For
I
real.
still have
Yeah.
it all the time.
No, it happened. Like, basically, when it comes to fandom and the industry at large, like,
Yeah.
we can't let it stay a Mojo Dojo Casa house,
It's
essentially.
true.
Let it be a
And I
Barbie Dream
love
house.
Mojo Dojo Kaja House. Like, they can have it. No one's obliterating it. We don't want to encroach
Yeah.
on all spaces.
Yeah.
Just let us have
Like,
our like little girly pop Labubu stand right next to you.
exactly. Exactly. The Mojo Dojo Casa house and the Barbie Dream house can exist in the
Yeah.
same neighborhood. Like, they
Well,
can be next door neighbors.
and this is why when we were kind of ideating that early Marvel show that was joining Marvel on, it was so based around these collaborations in style. I mean, that is where women are. We are always at Box Lunch and Hot Topic buying all the collaborations. I was the first in line for the Kith X-Men collaboration. I got all the Storm stuff. We are really excited consumers. And so that should give us just as much of a voice and visibility and right to be spoken to in these spaces. Because there's a lot of media that does not speak to us.
Yes.
Come on,
Yeah.
it's
And I
2025.
feel like a big part of that too is because there aren't enough women in the room actually,
It's
like,
also true. It's very true.
ideating and creating these
Yeah,
things. And,
I
we're
know.
it's I feel like, it's always improving, but there's still plenty of work to be done.
Yes, absolutely. It's so improved. I mean, the not even ratio, percentage of female presenting people that you see at Comic Con now is so awesome.
Yeah, it is.
It's my
It
favorite thing
is.
in the world. I mean, the best. I'm so sorry. Women are just better at cosplay. The
Mhm.
best
Yeah.
outfits I've ever seen.
No, it's, like, insane when you go through Comic-Con and you see, like, because I will admit I'm somebody, I buy my cosplays, like, and
You
they're
look
great, like, there's
great
nothing
though.
wrong with buying cosplays,
Sure, no.
but when sometimes you see these girls, these women who, like, have crafted these cosplays and they put them
A
together and the attention to
year
detail
on
to the
it.
makeup and to the hair and to
Yeah.
everything, it's just, like, it's incredible.
That is magic to me. Like, that is filmmaking in the real world to me. I mean, sometimes they do an even better job than the stuff that we see on film. It's crazy. At our Comic Con booth, we always have always had, at least, and I don't know, whatever the future holds, costumes from one of the latest projects
Yes.
actually on display, the ones the actors actually wore. And we'll have cosplayers come up and you'll see that their function so much better. It's like pure leather. Like the actual costuming from the film looks a little polyester and that's nothing to them. They made it look great on film, but you're just like, dang, y'all, someone would pay you thousands of dollars for that. It's really
Yeah.
cool. That's what I love. And so when I saw you guys, it's because I
Mhm.
always find these really, really cool cosplayers. And we've always had these well, we call them costume contests on the Marvel stages at Comic Cons in the past. And it's crazy what I can see there. I have seen helmets that shoot out laser beams that are like automated with a button.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, fandom is such an important part of the industry, of the
Yeah.
film industry at large, like, it's so great.
No, I mean, it's what makes it go round. Listen, the film industry does not work without money, and
Mm.
money comes from consumers and people who like the content. That is just, that's not debasing anything. That is just what it is.
And I
I
think
spend all my money on Marvel.
and actually to kinda, like, bring it all full circle, I feel like that's part of what makes your work enjoyable to you, but also makes
Yeah.
you, like, an appealing, like, person to hire for Marvel because they know how much you love and care, like, how enthusiastic you are about the work itself.
Yeah, I can't disagree. This is like probably the chillest face I have on all the time. I'm a very enthusiastic person. So I want to apologize if y'all are hating on me in the comments for the fact that I scream over things that I get excited about. You can say it's fake enthusiasm, but man, it's authentic. And just like being kind, authenticity is just, it's silly. It's the best thing you can be. You can only try and act as someone else for so long. And I I know this from being in the fashion industry those first few years. I mean, I tried to put on a cool persona for so long, and I lucked out that being able to geek out over Disney and fashion worked out so well for me. The not even just the staying power, the consistency in work I still get, it feels like it is rooted in that, and I also will say that from a viewpoint of other people I love within the industry. The people who continue to get hired and the people who do this, knowing they don't get paid too well, is genuinely because of a love for it and that authenticity and kindness. Also, doesn't matter how good of an actor you think you are, you can only portray like your excitement and who you are so well as well.
Yep. Yeah.
And if I were a producer or a casting director, I'm just saying that's what I would also be looking out for. So, once whoever I am stops being like what people want to see, I'll probably be done. But guess what? I'm still going to be that at the end of the day. And that's kind of like a weird life lesson to learn from all of it is I think that's why I'm just still grateful to get all the opportunities I do. Yeah, of course, listen, I am obviously fluffing this up a bit. You get really disillusioned by how difficult it can be to get work, and you get disillusioned by how many people are doing more things than you, how many people are maybe getting paid better than you, your social visibility. And if you are already looking at film, screw it. You love it. There's always going to be so many highs and so many lows. It's a career that's been worth it for me so far. And so if you feel that level of passion and excitement and are willing to be yourself and be a kind person in it, do it. Just do it. But you also have to start with every tool that you have on your own, every gadget that you have on your own. That will be the best advice I think anyone knowledgeable will give you. And it is something that you should take to heart. And again, don't make fun of me that I'm not doing it.
Usually I ask guests at the end of the interview, like, piece of advice they would offer, but honestly, like, I feel like that you beat me
If
to
I
it with
haven't
that
given
because that
you
was
like
so good.
10 of them already, but if it's anything, it's that.
That was amazing. That was so good. Yeah, I honestly couldn't have said it any better.
Well, thank you for letting me yap and share my
Yeah.
opinions. And I mean, yeah, okay, we had our last liner about advice, but for all the women out there, for all the girls out there, just do it. Just do the things that you like. It doesn't matter if people are seeing it or not, too. Just do it. Those are the best passion projects, or when you do it because you're not hoping for a certain response. And all the hosting gigs that I do, I mean, sure, it's really fun to have my mom post about it on Facebook and get her like 200 people to like it. My own circle could be like, ooh, cool, you're doing that again. But I do it because I really, really like it. It's so much fun. And yeah. So
Yeah.
just if you want to do it, do it.
Just do it. Do it for you. Do it for you. Yep. Well, right. Thank you so, so much for joining me on this episode of the
Thank you.
podcast. This was a pleasure, truly.
Like I said, I really can't wait to just watch all the future episodes of this. Yeah, I'm talking on here, but I can't wait to see what everyone else is going to say because I need this. I need a girls' crew. We need things like this where we're all talking with each other and being transparent and just sharing our wins too. Like I like
Yes.
celebrating people doing things.
Yes. Celebrating and elevating women while also helping to educate those on the other side.
And if you ever want advice, you can always DM me, guys. You can find me at Raya Sunshine, RayASunShine. That just shows you how well hidden I am on social media. But my DMs are always open. I always love talking to people. So feel
I
free.
will put the link to
Yeah.
Ray's in the description in case you didn't catch the spelling. But yeah, Ray, again, thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
And thank you everybody for listening and watching and tuning in, and talk to you next month. Bye.